Not expecting anything from anybody, anywhere, anytime. No expectation at all. That means whatever comes he accepts, whatever goes he accepts that also. That is the meaning of surrender. This surrender gives you a feeling of refuge. Refuge means you have surrendered to the Lord and Lord is looking after you. Whatever comes goes, it is with the knowledge of the Lord, it is with the permission of the Lord. So whether I have surrendered or not, the other day I was discussing, that can easily be tested by this feeling within, that if you have really surrendered, you will have a feeling of refuge within. Refuge, you understand? Ashraya bodha. कोई भी अगर आत्मसमर्पण किया है तो उनके मन में एक आश्रय बोध पैदा होगा. आश्रय बोध समझते हैं ना? जैसे हम बच्चा जब माँ के गोद पर रहते हैं, बच्चे जब माँ के गोद पे हैं उस समय उसकी कोई चिंता नहीं है. उसी तरह that we will feel a refuge in our mind, that I am in the lap of the Lord. That is the nirapeksha. So, sampadhyate gunair mukto jivo jivam vihaya mam. Jivaha jivam vihaya mam sampadhyate. Gunair mukto. That means all the gunas, not that he will not have any guna, he will have all the three gunas. But the bondages which are discussed in the 14th chapter, the bondages created by the guna, he will be freed of that. He will neither be under the bondage of tamoguna, nor under the bondage of rajoguna, nor under the bondage of sattvaguna. All the three bondages have gone. Gunair muktaha. What does it do? Jivaha, that is, we consider ourselves to be jivaha, small jivaha. Jivaha jivam vihaya mam sampadhyate. Sri Krishna is always referring to his identity as the universal identity, not the small body-mind identity. So, mam sampadhyate means he becomes like me, he becomes me. That means he also identifies himself with the universal I, the single I, all-pervading, transcendental I. So, jivam vihaya means that chotepan ko tyag kar. Jiva feeling is a chotepan in us, that I am only this and outside they are all outside. Jivaha, that means who is small, he वो छोटेपन त्याग कर सारे विश्व में फैल जाते हैं. He becomes like me, Krishna says. He identifies himself with the real identity. So here also this sattva, rajas, tamas, it is a guna model. It is only helping us. I said here that the sadhana is to do the jajya bhavana to get back to our Paramatma, that is our real identity. The beings, by doing the pursuing the jajya bhavana, they will get back to their real identity, the Paramatma. That Atma becomes Paramatma. So jivam vihaya means the Atma becomes Paramatma there. It gets merged into the Paramatma, like the small mirror turning upward and the reflected beam getting merged in the original beam, as I said the example. So, there, how do you do the jajya? If you try to do that jajya of always expanding and removing the selfishness and the constriction and expanding yourself, making your activities a part of the universal jajya of the Lord, you may try, but you will not be able to do until your guna constitution changes. With tamoguna and rajoguna, they will hinder your sadhana. Try to understand this. These are very important points. How are we to implement this in our life? You try to do the jajya bhavana, pursue the jajya bhavana, you will not be able to do without the constitutional change in our being. Because the mind will given to its rajasic and tamasic tendencies. The intelligence will be given to it. Body will be given to it. So unless you undergo a complete transformation of the being in terms of the guna qualities, that the tamoguna has to be overcome by rajoguna and sattvaguna, rajoguna has to be overcome by the sattvaguna, and finally you have to take to complete surrender or nirapekshata. But at least to have that maximum sattva, so that you can perform, you can carry on with the jajya bhavana, that will need sattvaguna, because sattvaguna means expansion, unity in diversity. For that you have to change your food habit, you have to change your seeing habit, you have to change your listening habit, everything, that all the inputs we are getting they have to be made sattvika input. Then only you will become sattvika. It is simple science. Whatever you take in, you become that. So we have to change all the aharas. Ahara means not only the food through the mouth. Ahara is sound through the ears, the sight through the eyes, everything, all the aharas. And more than that is the ahara of the mind and intelligence. That is the thoughts, the ideals, the virtues we are incorporating in us. That means we have to read the sattvika books which are giving us the sattvika qualities. We have to ruminating over this truth is itself a great sattvika practice. We have to do that. So more and more mind hours we have to spend on the cultivation of the sattva guna in everything. Particularly the mind. The mind has to be fed with good thoughts, noble thoughts, good ideals, noble ideals, virtues and whatnot. That will incorporate the change. As the body-mind personality undergoes the transformation, automatically our everything, it will ultimately, jajya bhavana or samatva buddhi, everything can be incorporated easily. They will become svabhavika, sahaja, natural to us. This is the sadhana, we should not miss the sadhana. So, this sattva, rajas, tamas have been discussed so much in 14th chapter, 18th chapter, and here and there 17th chapter also. Why have they been given so much importance in Bhagavad Gita? Because that consists of a very practical sadhana. That how to transform our being. Otherwise, whatever they have discussed, we will not be able to implement it. Although we will understand, but we will not be able to implement it unless the whole being undergoes a transformation. And when we transform the being, everything becomes natural, swabhavik. Yes, they are duality. Both are product of the mind only. Yes, in the 18th chapter, Sukha has been analyzed in 3 forms. Then everything, why don't you read 18th chapter? Everything is in terms of 3 gunas. Karma, Karta, Jnana, Dhruti, Buddhi, Sukha. Everything has been analyzed as 3. Yes, it is a duality. It is a duality, and that duality will go when you understand that both are product of the mind, both are product of the consciousness. In Sukha also the Lord is equally there, in Dukkha also the Lord is equally there as in Sukha. If you are a devotee, then you will find Lord in both. Why do you have to go to the scriptures? Our Rabindranath has sang so many places. Jeke ho more diye cho shukho, diye cho tari porichaya, shavare ami nomi. Jeke ho more diye cho dukho, diye cho tari porichaya, shavare ami nomi. Shabari maje, tahari ami peyechi aji porichaya. That is, those who have given me dukkha, sorrow, suffering. Through that suffering they have given me, O Lord, your touch. So I prostrate before them who have given me suffering. Those who have given me happiness and joy, through that happiness and joy also they have given me your touch, O Lord. So I prostrate before them also. Those who have given me suffering. Because through all this suffering and happiness, given by all the different circumstances, O Lord, I have got only you and you alone. The poets have written so many things. Yes, mind is considered an indriya. In this chapter also it is there. Mind is a most important indriya. Because there are certain things which the other indriyas are not involved. Suppose fame, looking for appreciation, these are all mind product. Other senses are not involved. See, another fundamental thing, whatever we do in the name of religious or spiritual sadhana, ultimately it is our mind, our personality which is involved. The other, what we are doing for whom, it is not at all involved, not at all important. Suppose you are going to the temple and worshipping. It is not the idol or the god which is important there. It is our mind which is doing the worship. It is the sincerity of the mind what you are praying. That is why some people get fulfilled, some others' prayers are not fulfilled. It depends on their mind, how much earnestly, how much sincerely they are praying. And it is worked by the mind itself. The power of the mind, we don't know. We consider the mind is limited by the small body. So naturally, we don't know the power of the mind. Everything is mind. Mind has got tremendous power. So the more we become sincere, transparent, one-pointed, the mind works. It is, idol is only secondary. Even the greatest book of Bhakti, Bhagavatam, says clearly it is like the idol or whatever we are doing in the name of worship or so. It is like looking into the mirror and putting the bindi on the face. The mirror is helping us to put the bindi, the tilak. But where we are looking at the mirror, our face, and putting the bindi, is it falling on the mirror? It is falling on our face. Like that we are worshipping, looking at the idol. But whatever the result, it is happening in us, not in the idol. The idol does not grow bigger by that. Or the saint does not become fatter by your prostration. It is all to do with us. Everything is for us. It is the mind which is activated through it. Everything is mind. The whole universe is mind and mind alone. Everything we do in the name of religion and spirituality, it is to work with the mind. What we are studying also, it is not so much of knowledge as we gain the knowledge in physics, chemistry, mathematics. Spiritual knowledge is not like that. The studies, spiritual studies, are given as an instrument. By constantly ruminating on the soul, thinking about the soul, analyzing about the soul, the mind becomes the soul. This transformation of the mind is activated, incorporated, actualized by our study. The philosophy is not the ultimate. By the philosophy, what is happening to the mind is the important part there. So it is a simple technology. The more and more you interact with the world, the mind becomes worldly. More and more you interact with fragmented bhavanas, fragmented ideas, the mind becomes fragmented. More and more you replace those interaction with the universal oneness, transcendentalness with the soul, the mind becomes integrated, becomes one. The fragmentations go, it becomes integrated. So it is, although we think that we are knowing about Atma, knowing about Brahman, that is not the real purpose. That is only secondary. Those we are utilizing to treat our mind, intelligence, our body, that our being is being treated by this knowledge. And then what we become the knowledge. It is not a knowledge gained from the scripture or from the lecturer or anything like that. If we really activate that knowledge, then what we will become? We will become the soul. Is it not? Constantly interacting with the concept of the soul, we become the soul. So let us go ahead with a few more shlokas. We will repeat the, from 14th shloka we will chant. Today we have not chanted at all. अन्नाद् भवन्ति भूतानि पर्जन्यादन्न संभवः यज्ञाद् भवति पर्जन्यो यज्ञः कर्म समुद्भवः कर्म ब्रह्मोद्भवं विद्धि ब्रह्माक्षरसमुद्भवम् तस्मात् सर्वगतं ब्रह्म नित्यं यज्ञे प्रतिष्ठितम् एवं प्रवर्तितं चक्रं नानुवर्तयतीह यः अघायुरिन्द्रियारामो मोघं पार्थ स जीवति एवं प्रवर्तितं चक्रम. This is what we have just now shown on the projector. This is the chakra. Pravartitam chakra means this has been instituted by nature, by creator, whatever you may say. There our part is only to use the Jajna Bhavana to complete the chakra. That is, this is the chakra of our origin. Now by instituting the Jajna Bhavana in a being, we are getting back, completing the whole cycle, getting back to the Paramatma. That you have understood, no? So he says, evam pravartitam chakram nanuvattayati hayaha. This chakra, one who does not follow. What he will not follow? He will not complete the chakra, he will not do activities. Particularly he is saying one who does not do any activities. So there is no question of jajna. To do the jajna, you have to be getting involved in something. Then only you can activate the jajna attitude in doing the karma. So suppose somebody is not doing anything, he says, aghayuhu indriyaramaha mogham partha sajivati. See how many condemnation. He is aghayuhu, means whatever ayus has been given to him by nature, he is misusing, he is not utilizing that ayus. The nature has given us a certain span of life. He is not using that span of life. His life has no meaning at all. Aghayuhu. Agha means papa, no? Papa, sinful. Because he is constricted in his mind, he is selfish. So he is sinful. His ayus is sinful ayus. Indriya Ramaha. He is only interested in sense satisfaction, sense intelligence. He has no loftier thought to convert the life into a yajna or divinize the life and get to the permanent joy. Mogham partha sajivati. He is living for no purpose at all, only for incurring sin. Yastu atmaratireva syat atmatriptascha manavaha atmanyeva cha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate. From this 17th shloka, another section is starting. So before we go to the 17th, you get back to the 8th where we started this Jajna Bhavana. 9th we started Jajna Bhavana. 8th verse you go back. He said, Niyatam kuru karmatvam karmajyayo hyakarmanaha Sharira yatra pichate na prasidhyeda karmanaha. So those verses we studied in the beginning, they are saying that those who keep quiet, not doing anything but think many things in their mind, they are absolutely hypocrite. Everybody should do something. And here, niyatam kuru karmatvam. You should do the karma with the jajna bhavana, with the samatva bhavana. That niyatam means guided by your viveka buddhi. Harmonious with your inner voice, guided by your viveka buddhi, you should perform whatever you are doing, whatever has to be done. You go on doing that. Because doing karma is better than remaining akarma, remaining idle. Idleness is never approved of. Sharira yatra pichate na prasidhyeta karmanaha. Even your living cannot be done without any karma. So, never detest karma, never detest activity. Activity is never going to hinder your self-realization or anything at all. Only you have to change your attitude to the jajna bhavana or samatva bhavana and convert your activities into a jajna. And then, or yoga, karma yoga, you convert, make the karma into a yoga. Then that will take you to the goal which the Upanishads also promise. So after that he has explained what is this jajna, what is this. So he took it to that universal level of all the activities, that everywhere it is jajna is being done. Only the human beings are positing their egoistic I there and spoiling the jajna. Suppose there is a beautiful flower, you appreciate the beauty of the flower, that how beautifully nature has created. You will find that your mind will be expanding by the appreciation of nature. But, oh, it is a beautiful flower. Apne sir pe laga diya. You are spoiling the jajna there. That beauty is there, but you are introducing your selfishness in putting the flower to beautify yourself. Suppose you are appreciating a beauty of a man or a woman as a creation of God. There is nothing wrong, it is good when you can appreciate it. Some faces are so innocent, so transparent. Seeing that we feel so happy and good about it. But suppose seeing that face you think that if she had become my wife, how good had it been? The yajna is spoiled immediately. That is, you are introducing selfishness where you could easily expand and get the benefit of the yajna. Then it's become yajna shishta ashinas santo. That you take the prasada, the chitta prasada by performing the yajna. Not doing that by sensory enjoyment, the clinging to sensory enjoyment every time we are spoiling the yajna. So they have taken that the universal dimension and completed this after saying that activities have to be done. And these activities are instrument for liberation. You should not hate activities. Without the activities you will not be able to transform your being. That is the idea. You should not miss that part. Now he is saying that one who does not take part in this chakra, he is absolutely sinful life. He is leading a sinful life. Saying that he says that, but for the knower it is not applicable. The next two shlokas says, because he has already that, I said that Jajna Paramatma, that merger is already there. So for him there is no Jajna and you can say everything is Jajna. For him everything is the Lord's Jajna. Triguna going on with its activity. Guna guneshu vartanta iti matva na sajjate. He doesn't cling to anything at all. In Shvetashvatara it says, na tasya karyam karanam cha vidyate na tatsamascha drishyate parasyar shaktir vividhaiva shruyate svabhaviki jnana balakriya cha na tasya karyam karanam cha vidyate na tatsamascha drishyate parasyar shaktir vividhaiva shruyate svabhaviki jnana balakriya cha. It's a very good shloka. He says, for him there is no karyam or karanam. There is nothing to be done, no activity at all. He does activity, maybe doing everything, but nothing is applicable to him. Natat samaschat abhyadikascha drishyate. Nothing can be equal to him or transcending him, because that is the ultimate in which the whole universe is appearing to be. Asya parashaktir vividhaiva shruyate. Although he is not involved in any activity at all, his supreme power is appearing as this multifarious universe. The whole, that Purusha, that consciousness, its supreme power is appearing as the whole multifarious, variegated universe. How? Swabhaviki jnana balakriyacha. This yesterday also I quoted from Munda Upanishad. How? Swabhaviki, it is a sahaja, no desire, motivation, nothing. The whole srishti is a sahaja srishti, it is just appearing to be. A knower's life becomes a sahaja life. Swabhaviki. How? Swabhaviki jnana balakriyacha. The knowledge which he is, the non-dual knowledge, the consciousness he is, it is the power of that knowledge which is appearing as kriya. Jnana balakriya. This word is very important. Jnana balakriya. That knowledge is manifest as the kriya in the whole universe. See, when generally a differentiation is made, when any action is done with a desire motivation, we call it karma. Avidya, kama, karma. First is the ignorance that I am small and everything is different from me. That gives rise to the desire in us, because the moment we think I am small, I have to run after something, I have to run away from something, I have to get this, I cannot lose this. All these are coming from avidya. Avidya means ignorance, that I am small. I don't know my universal identity. So avidya leads to kama, desire. and kama leads to karma. Our general desire motivated activities are coming like that. But when it is not desire motivated, we generally call it kriya. It is not karma. The whole universe is tremendous, unimaginable activity, but all these are kriya. They are not karma. Nothing is desire motivated there. So for a jnani's life also it becomes a kriya, not karma. He does not have any more desire motivated activity, but he functions, he does more than others. That's all kriya. That is what he is saying, jnana bala kriyacha, jnana bala kriyacha. The supreme consciousness by its sahaja, svabhaviki, sahaja. Svabhaviki means natural, spontaneous, by its knowledge, power, action. By its own manifestation, the whole magic of the world is being done.